Hey, this is Jamie with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 game recommendations if you enjoy our game, my game, Charterstone. Here is Charterstone. So, Charterstone is a village building legacy game. You play Charterstone over a 12 game campaign, and one of the reasons I'm talking about it today is that I started a Charterstone campaign around 16 months ago in early 2020 with 5 players. It was my second campaign of Charterstone. I hadn't played it a while up to that point. We started a new campaign with people who hadn't played it before, and then the pandemic hit, and so we have not gotten together for a long time until just this past weekend. We're all fully vaccinated, fortunately, so we got together and we had a lovely 2 game session of Charterstone. We play two games every time we play, and I was really pleasantly surprised. So I know this is my own design, but I hadn't played the game in 16 months or 15 months. I was really pleasantly surprised by how the rules just walk you through everything very, very clearly. So I always wonder that about games, like how hard is it to return to this game after not playing for a long time and remember all the rules? But it was very easy. Like we just walked through setup. The setup is outlined very clearly in the rulebook with the little stickers that we put in the rulebook, and that jogged our memories for most of the different elements of the game. Everything else we easily looked up and moved forward. So that was really nice experience, and made me want to talk about games that are similar to Charterstone or have aspects that overlap with Charterstone that you might enjoy if you enjoy Charterstone. So what I did is I broke down 10 special things, unique things about Charterstone, and I picked a favorite game for each that also has that characteristic. So at number 10, I have Caylus. Caylus isn't a game I own. I have not played the new version of Caylus, but Caylus is also a game where you are building action spaces, building buildings in Caylus that other players can use. So that's a big part of the game. You're building these buildings, and other players can use them after you've built them. And I think that is a strong village building element or city building element that correlates to Charterstone. So city building, village building is the shared element here. You're building a shared village in Caylus that other players are also using these action spaces that you're creating. Also, there are some kind of semi-cooperative elements of Caylus. Now, I wouldn't say it's completely semi-cooperative, but you're doing certain things like building the castle that multiple players are working on that castle over the course of the game. You're just trying to do it better than the other players. And there are several elements in Charterstone that include that aspect. There's the quota track, there's the reputation track, there are different scenario-based things that are coming up where you're trying to do something together, do something with other players a little bit. And so it shares that similarity with Caylus as well. So if you enjoy Charterstone, I think you probably enjoy Caylus too. That's my number 10. At number 9 on the list is Tidal Blades. Let me pull it off the big stack over here. I had it in the wrong order. There we go. Tidal Blades. Tidal Blades is also a worker placement game similar to Charterstone. It has a lot of stuff that's not in Charterstone. Tidal Blades also has, it has custom dice. It has a skill test, things like that. Those things aren't in Charterstone. But the similarity here is that Tidal Blades shares an illustrator, Mr. Cuddington, the husband-wife team of David and Lena Cassette illustrated Tidal Blades and had a big impact on the world building of Tidal Blades, and the same went for Charterstone. They also illustrated Charterstone, and I will say that they had a huge impact on really the game design of Charterstone, because I was designing the game as they were actively illustrating it. So there were things that I added to the game because I was like, oh, that's a neat little thing you put in the art there. I want to build off of that. I want to riff off that and put it in the game. And so it was just a wonderful collaboration process with Mr. Cuddington, the husband-wife team. And I wanted to pick a game that had some similarities to Charterstone, like Tidal Blades does, but also was illustrated by them. So that's, if you love the art of Tidal Blades, I think you'll enjoy the art in Charterstone as well. That's my number 9. At number 8, we have a game that really has no mechanical similarities to Charterstone. But it does have a ton of hidden surprises that lead to memorable moments. And that was a huge design philosophy for my design of Charterstone. I wanted a legacy game, and there are many legacy games that do this, but I wanted a legacy game that had huge memorable moments that you would really never forget. That's the goal. And the King's Legacy, the King's Dilemma, I'm sorry, not the King's Legacy. The King's Dilemma is a recent legacy game that I played that had a ton of memorable moments. A lot of them driven by the narrative in the game, but also a lot of them driven by what us as players decided to do. The King's Dilemma is a game where you, thematically, it's actually not all that dissimilar from Charterstone. You are advisors to a king, and you are advising this king to do different things to steer the course of this kingdom. Charterstone is a little bit of a smaller game in terms of scope. You're not steering the king. There is a king. You are not advisors, though. You're just random people that are sent to a village to build it in the kingdom of Green Gully. There are so many memorable moments that we had in the King's Dilemma, and that was the same thing I was aiming for in Charterstone. There are lots of things that happen, things that you open up in Charterstone that I really wanted to be. I designed them to be memorable. I designed them to be distinct. A few of them can only exist in the Legacy space. I won't spoil them here, obviously, but yeah. So I thought the King's Legacy. I thought about all the different Legacy games. I think the other one that comes to mind is Pandemic Legacy. Pandemic Legacy has some great memorable moments in it. But King's Legacy, I think King's Dilemma, I think did it even better, a little bit better. So that is my pick at number 8 for my games of list of games that I recommend if you enjoy Charterstone. The King's Dilemma. So at number 7, the category of tutorial. I recently talked about tutorials on this channel, and I mentioned Charterstone in that channel. And I also mentioned, I think my top pick in that video was Mechs versus Minions for the tutorial. And for reference, I'm talking about tutorials that where you open the box and can literally just start playing. That you can just walk through the rulebook and start playing. Charterstone comes very close to that. It does still encourage you to read through some of the rules, but you don't have to. You can just open the box and it tells you what to do, and you'll take out a sticker card and you read that card and it tells you where to put that sticker and what to do, what to unlock, and how to and kind of unravels how to play. So you're learning to play as you're actually playing the game for the first time. Mechs vs. Minions does it really well, but I think Sleeping Gods is a more similar game to Charterstone in that aspect. While this is a fully cooperative open world game, there's a lot of stuff that you're discovering throughout the game. There is worker placement in Sleeping Gods, and the tutorial is excellent. Really, really excellent tutorial where we really just opened the box up and started to play as we were reading through the tutorial, which I really loved. Made the accessibility and the ability for us to get this to the table so much easier, as was my hope for Charterstone. So in the category of tutorials, if you like the tutorial in Sleeping Gods, I think you'll also enjoy the tutorial in Charterstone. There's one other element that I'll get to in a second about Sleeping Gods that I won't mention here. But at number 6, I wanted to include a Stonemaier game in this category. If you enjoy, Charterstone is a game designed by me, made by Stonemaier Games. If you enjoy our games in general, then a very similar game, or not a very similar game, but a somewhat similar game, is Euphoria. Euphoria is also a worker placement game, and it also is the first time that I saw or used the bump mechanism for worker placement, in that there are many action spaces that you can place a worker on the Euphoria board, where you or another player could then use that space and bump the worker back to you. And what that does is there's no rounds in Euphoria, there's no rounds in Charterstone. What that does is it means you don't have to spend, or you spend one less turn just retrieving workers. In Charterstone, if you have all your workers out, or if you just want to pull your workers back, you can spend a turn retrieving them. Same thing in Euphoria, and there are actually far fewer workers in Euphoria. So you'll often spend your turn in Euphoria pulling back workers, unless you are able to place your workers on action spaces that other players want, or that you might use multiple times in a row. So that bumping mechanism, if you like that in worker placement, that bumping mechanism, and that flow of the game of not having to stop for rounds, but always continually playing, you're either placing or retrieving, is I think if you enjoy that aspect of Charterstone, I think you'll also enjoy that aspect of Euphoria. That is my number 6 pick on this list for recommendations. My number 5 pick is the thing that I referenced a second ago with Sleeping Gods, and that is that Charterstone in the box includes metal coins. Every copy of Charterstone includes metal coins. And as far as I know, I believe Architects does too. Maybe this is just a Kickstarter thing. I'm not entirely sure. But I love that Architects of the West Kingdom includes metal coins. Sleeping Gods also includes metal coins. Again, that might be a Kickstarter thing. But for Charterstone, it wasn't. Charterstone was never on Kickstarter. Just every copy of Charterstone has metal coins. I'll mention why I did that in a second, but Architects is also just an excellent worker placement game that I really, really love. And while you are building some things in it, similar to Charterstone, but largely the worker placement is what I really love about Architects, and that is found in Charterstone as well. But the reason I included metal coins in Charterstone is because Charterstone is a legacy game, you are generally going to just be playing 12 games of it. I designed it so you can continue to play a standard version of the game on the village that you build as much as you want. You can continue to do that. But I think a lot of the fun of the game is unlocking new stuff, building buildings for the first time. You put these stickers on the board. It's a creative legacy game. It's not a destructive legacy game. But the point is that most players, after they play 12 games of Charterstone, will stop playing. And I wanted them to have something they could take out of the game to permanently use, something that they can feel like, oh, I have this thing that I gained permanently that I can use from now on. And those are the metal coins. You can take the metal coins out of Charterstone and just have a permanent, nice set of metal coins to use in any other game after you're finished with the Charterstone campaign. So that's why I put metal coins in every copy of the game. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, actually, with Sleeping Gods, in Charterstone, there is a magnetic box that you open up to pull cards out of, and Sleeping Gods used a very similar box. I'm guessing Ryan saw the box that we used and used something similar, because it is really satisfying when you're unlocking this box and snapping open the magnet, and then closing it. There's just a satisfying feel of doing that and keeping the unlockable cards in that container. I think Clank Legacy referenced Charterstone as well. So that is, what are we getting to? That was number 5, Architects of the West Kingdom. At number 4, we have the concept of ramping actions and escalating actions, increasing number of actions and complexity. I mentioned Caylus earlier. Caylus does do this, but one of the games that I think does this best is Lords of Waterdeep. Lords of Waterdeep, like Charterstone, is a worker placement game, and over the course of any individual game of Lords of Waterdeep, opposed to the entire campaign of Charterstone, you are building buildings that become new action spaces for any player to use. So early on in any game of Lords of Waterdeep, you start off very simply. You don't have a lot of options, but that actually makes the game, getting into the game or teaching the game, really easy. And then as the game unfolds, you are building more and more tiles around the board that any player can use, and you get a slight benefit if another player uses them. So I really like this aspect of Lords of Waterdeep. I like how it unfolds in Charterstone over the course of the campaign. You start out with a very simple village, and then you're building more and more action spaces for you and other players to use. But that idea of increasing actions and increasing complexity, I think, is emphasized by individual games of Lords of Waterdeep. In fact, Lords of Waterdeep would make a fantastic legacy game. How have they not made a legacy version of Lords of Waterdeep yet? Because that would be fantastic to play. And they could learn from these other legacy games, village building legacy games that have come before it. That would be awesome to see. But yeah, Lords of Waterdeep is my number 4 game on this list. At number 3, we have Everdell. Yeah, Everdell. The comparison here, I mean, there are lots of comparisons here to Charterstone, but the one I was going for is just worker placement in general. I mentioned a lot of worker placement games on this list, but I think Everdell does a great job with worker placement, and also you are literally building your own little village in Everdell over the course of the game. So you're building your village, or you're part of the village, you're sharing action spaces with other players, there's resource collection, resource allocation, and you're also engine building over the course of the game. So there's a lot of similarities here. It's just a flat-out comparison. If you enjoy Everdell, I think you'll enjoy Charterstone, and vice versa. That's the stack, but we have a couple more games on this list. 2 games that I don't own. At number 2, one of the major inspirations for Charterstone, and a game that I still continue to really, really enjoy, and I think is a strong comparison to the game. If you enjoy Aura at Labora, I think you'll really enjoy Charterstone. And if you enjoy Charterstone, this list goes both ways. If you really enjoy Charterstone, I think you'll really enjoy Uwe Rosenberg's Aura at Labora. The key here is that you have a shared village. And this is something that I mentioned with a few of the other categories, but I think the aspect of a shared village really comes through in Aura at Labora, because you have your own tableau that you're building, all these cards that you're building in your little your section of the village, or it might represent your own village in Aura Labora. But you can also use worker placement action spots in any other player's area. And the key reason here is because it prevents any one player from running away from the game just because they've built slightly better actions than you. I think Everdell actually has the same thing. I think you can use your opponent's actions in Everdell as well. But I think this is a big deal in Aura Labora, because there are lots of cards to choose from, and if you go after a card, it can somewhat define your strategy, but it doesn't mean that you alone have access to it. Other players can use that building and use it to their full benefit, even though you've been the one who spent the time and effort actually building it. Aura Labora also has an element that I tried to put in Charterstone, but I couldn't figure out how to put it in there without messing up entirely other big parts of the game, and that is that there's a fun spatial element to the buildings in Aura Labora. So where exactly you place your buildings in relation to other buildings in your part of the village makes a big difference in terms of your end game scoring. That's not in Charterstone at all, but it is a really fun part about Aura Labora that I thought I'd mention here. So that's Aura Labora, my number 2 pick for this list. At number 1, I have the game that I think is the most similar to Charterstone, and it also happens to be a game that I really, really enjoy, and that is the Rise of Queensdale. This is also a village building legacy game where you're sharing a village with other players. You have your own little patch of the village, but you can also use areas that other players kind of control. It's also a legacy game, so you're unlocking a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of creativity and fun stuff in the Rise of Queensdale. And really, everything I've described, like the way I described it, I might as well have just described Charterstone. But the Rise of Queensdale is so unique. Like the mechanisms, even though thematically it's very similar, the mechanisms are completely different from Charterstone. The things that you're actually doing in your section of the village are just completely different. You're kind of hunting for these herbs, and you're doing this set collection thing with these herbs, and that's like the core idea of the gameplay in Rise of Queensdale. But it branches off from that quite a bit as you unlock new stuff. But I love that they created a game that is so thematically similar to Charterstone. Even in the idea of you are being sent out to start a new village somewhere in a kingdom, that is the exact same opening as Rise of Queensdale. But mechanically, they are so different. And yet also so similar. It's just, I think it's a one-to-one comparison. If you enjoy Charterstone, I think you will definitely enjoy Rise of Queensdale. If you enjoy Rise of Queensdale, I think you'll definitely enjoy Charterstone. There's really no other way to say it there, because they're so similar and also dissimilar in key ways that make one feel fresh, even if you've enjoyed key aspects of the other. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there were some wonderful moments in Rise of Queensdale. Some certain things that could happen, like one player gained an ability to do a certain thing, and we all got really excited whenever the player chose to do that thing because it impacted other players. There's just a lot of fun moments in Rise of Queensdale. I forgot to do honorable mentions at the beginning of this video. I totally skipped that. So let me end with the honorable mentions. These are games that I thought of or our ambassadors thought of in comparison to Charterstone, games that they think that you would enjoy if you enjoy Charterstone, or vice versa. Those games are above and below My City, which I haven't played yet, Pandemic Legacy, Raiders of the North Sea, Stone Age, Viticulture, Agricola, Clank Legacy, Belfort, and the Rise of Fenris. The Rise of Fenris, I think, is I almost put this in the game in terms of hidden surprises, because the Rise of Fenris also includes some really big things that you open, big memorable moments of components that you open. The same thing happens in Charterstone. But I didn't want to include 2 Stonemaier Games products on the list. Instead, I chose The King's Dilemma for that category. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoy Charterstone, I'd love to hear some other games that you would recommend to other people. Or if you haven't played Charterstone, but you enjoy some of these games, I'd love to hear your thoughts on those games as well. And I'd also recommend trying Charterstone if you enjoy the games on this list. All right, thanks.